What's going on, everyone? Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, before we get into today's episode, I'm going to need you to take a look at these analytical stat bars right here. You guys already know the drill. Hit the like button, turn on notifications, and don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment on the video to feed the algorithm. This is going to be part 4 of Season 2 of What If Ash and Paul travel to Unova, where we continue the Pokemon Junior World Tournament arc. And things are about to get interesting with Paul being involved instead of Ash. But with all that being said, let's get into the next part. I hope you enjoy. We pick up moments after the violent display that was seen on the monitors in the locker room of the Junior World Tournament. Dawn, Iris, and Paul all watch on in horror as both Tripp and his Conkeldor walk into the lounge area. A silence befalls the room as Tripp looks with a smile on his face. What, are you guys scared? This tournament is single elimination, the boy says. So, it's either going to be me or you. And I got news for you. It won't be me. Iris is the first to speak, telling Tripp that what he did went way too far. How could he order his Pokemon to hurt another one like that? But Tripp stands firm, telling the aspiring Dragon Master that his Pokemon are strong, and strength alone will be what wins this competition. So, I won't be holding anything back, the smug boy says as he eyes down Paul. Paul begins to say something when a tournament official interrupts, telling Tripp that he needs to come with them. Both the tournament committee and Alder would like to have a word with you. With a shrug, Tripp recalls his fighting type and follows the official out of the room. What was his problem, Dawn asks. That's Tripp. He's had a bit of a chip on his shoulder since Ash and Paul came to Unova. Wait, Ash is with you guys? Dawn inquires. No, Paul says. He's on his own journey right now, but we're supposed to meet up in a few weeks in Absolute City. Oh well, I hope he's doing alright. But anyways, Paul, how have you been? I was good up until now. Yeah, that kid is a little extreme, Dawn says. But Paul doesn't answer, leaving both Dawn and Iris to have a conversation amongst themselves. Thoughts of the past play in Paul's head. There were several times where he could have crossed that line that Tripp just did. Luckily, he had Reggie, someone to keep Paul grounded, so he understood the difference between victory and humiliation. Whether he knows it or not, Tripp has crossed that line. It's here that Paul makes a silent vow to himself. He will be the one to battle Tripp in the tournament. He will not lose until they have their battle. Maybe Paul can do for Tripp what Reggie had done for Paul before. He can bring him back. This is where Paul's inner monologue is interrupted by the boy Stefan. Well, I didn't think I would get to see you guys without Ash. You three seemed to be inseparable the last time I saw you. Oh, Steven, Iris says, to which the boy corrects her with irritation in his voice. But the aspiring Dragon Master ignores this, telling Stefan that they separated from him for the time being, as Paul had some business to take care of in this part of Unova. Well, I had hoped to battle him here in the tournament, but I guess you guys will have to do. So that means I'm coming for you two. Iris is excited about this, with Dawn joining in the conversation, getting to know her new friends. However, this is interrupted with the announcement of the next rounds. They have 4 more to end today's rankings. It just so happens that the energetic kid that acts like Ash is up first, as the name Cameron is called. The boy jumps up, ready for his chance, as he and Riolu rush off for the battlefield. While it was close, Cameron was able to close out the battle with his Riolu. This leaves Dawn, Iris, and Stefan, who all close out their matches with the win. The day draws to a close as the group awaits the announcement for the pairings for day 2. Paul, Dawn, Iris, Stefan, Cameron, Georgia, and a girl named Burgundy, who is upset with Paul for eliminating her self-declared rival Silent. However, Paul seems unbothered by her excessive whining, but the reason why it's taking so long is because the match that Tripp was part of. Technically, he should be part of the pairings, but because of the circumstances of that outcome, the last spot of the top 8 is left in limbo. At this point, it's been near an hour since the end of the tournament, and the crowd is becoming restless. That is, until the announcer for the tournament finally speaks, giving everyone the much-awaited news. The people that were for sure in the top 8 all appear on the screen. Then, Champion Alder gets on the mic to explain the outcome of the final participant. As he does, the rest of the trainers are in their locker room when the last person they expected to walk in does. There stands Tripp with a smug smirk plastered across his face. Wait, you? Iris declares. But why? Those tournament officials were clueless. I simply told him that I was in shock by Conkeldor's outburst. The fear of the situation kept me frozen in self-preservation. They bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. You lied, Dawn says with anger in her voice. You're the worst type of trainer. But Tripp simply laughs. You're naive. The world is a place where only the strong survive. I didn't see that until I met you, Paul. After our several battles, I realized that it's only power that matters when it comes to Pokemon and competition. So, thanks for the life lesson. It really helped me become a better trainer, but he's at a loss for words. The rest of the top 8 finalists are disgusted with Tripp's outlook on things, but before anyone can add to the conversation, Tripp simply tells them that he'll see them tomorrow. If they were smart, then anyone who gets paired with him should probably just forfeit, if they don't want the same thing to happen to their Pokemon. Tripp simply walks out, leaving everyone in stunned silence, though Paul has one thought. This is his doing. If Tripp's gone this far, then only his Pokemon have the conditioning to take Tripp on in the level of battle that he's going for. Paul then runs from the locker room, leaving Dawn and Iris in silence, wondering what's up with him. Paul rushes to the arena. His intentions are to meet with Cynthia and the rest of the tournament committee. Luckily, he finds them there still discussing the events of the day. Paul apologizes for his interruption, but it's imperative that he makes a request of them. Look, kid, our decision was final. We won't be changing our mind, Alder says without even hearing Paul out. But Cynthia knows this look. That's not what Paul wants. So she speaks up, saying, let's hear him out. Paul's request is a simple one. He wants to be the first to battle Tripp tomorrow. This piques the interest of everyone, to which Alder asks why he would want to do that. All the pairings are randomized, so it makes no sense to change things. Yes, Claire says, why do you think we need to make any changes? Because what happened today was my fault, Paul says. Oh, how so, the Unova champion asks. I've had several encounters with this person over the past year that I've been in Unova. I think that he is trying to manipulate you guys into turning a blind eye. A bellow of laughter rings from Alder. You think we could be manipulated? You must not know who we are. But I do, Paul says. You guys are all high-class trainers whose job is to promote the future growth of each of your regions. With that mindset, I think it's easy for you guys to get tunnel vision when addressing issues. I think you may be overstepping your boundaries as a participant of this tournament, Alder says. You should go back to the locker room before your comments force us to make changes to you. But Paul stands firm. I'm aware of that. It's this reason why I'm not asking for you to ban Tripp from the tournament. I'm simply asking for you to make me his first match. If I'm wrong, then you lose nothing by doing this. But if I'm right, then I think my Pokemon are the only ones that have the conditioning to battle him without getting hurt. This response has a surprise effect on everyone that Paul addresses, but for different reasons. Cynthia knows Paul isn't one to play around, so he may actually know something that the rest of them don't. Claire finds this side as one that she thought Paul would never have. Caitlin just stays quiet, awaiting her champion's response. Then there's Alder. The goal of this boy to undermine them as the overseers of this tournament, this doesn't sit well with him, but he's no fool and can read the room. His response is a simple one. We will take your request into consideration. Now please leave. With a simple thank you for your time, Paul takes his leave. Later at the Pokemon Center, Iris, Dawn, and Stefan are sitting with Paul. The topic of conversation is what Paul was doing when he left the locker room, but he insists that it was nothing important. He just needed to ask the tournament committee a question. Well, what was the question, Iris asks? But Paul isn't budging, much to Iris's irritation. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, Dawn says, knowing Paul far better than anyone else here. How about we change the subject for once, Stefan says. I know today was kind of a bummer, but let's look forward to tomorrow. We are all in the top 8. That means any of us could battle at some point. Doesn't that excite you? It does, Iris says. I can't wait to take my secret weapon for a test drive. It's going to bring me victory in this tournament. That's a bold claim, a voice says from across the room. Looking, there stands Georgia, the Dragon Buster. She's been giving Iris trouble the whole tournament, trying to stir the pot and frustrate her as much as possible. It's been working, as each time Iris begins to turn red in her face whenever she's around. This leads the two to an argument as everyone watches. Iris insists that Georgia won't be acting all confident when she wins the tournament. I guess I'll just have to show you the real truth on the battlefield, Georgia says smugly as she walks off. All the while, Paul notices Tripp standing in the shadows of the room, watching the group make fools of themselves. He then disappears into the darkness as Paul begins to formulate a strategy on how to best deal with him. The next morning, all the combatants are present for the announcement of the pairings. The crowd is cheering loudly as Alder addresses them, reassuring everyone that the events of yesterday were a one-time thing, and they have the safety of both them and the participants in mind going forward. Now, let's get started. With that, the pairings begin to randomize on the screen above. Paul stands tense, hoping that the committee took his request into consideration. His heart begins to pound as the pairings begin to appear. Then, it begins to sink when he realizes what has actually happened. He and Tripp are on opposite sides of the pairings, with his being first and Tripp's being last in this current lineup. If Paul wants to battle Tripp, then he's going to have to win his way to the finals. With a feeling of disgust, Paul looks up at Alder, who is looking back. That should remind you of your place, boy, the champion thinks to himself. Paul realizes immediately that this was deliberate, but there's nothing he can do now. He has to get ready for his first match, which just so happens to be against Stefan. Paul enters the battlefield, focused on nothing but the road ahead. This kid is just a stepping stone on his path to Tripp. Stefan has a similar mentality, as he wants to demonstrate the power power of his strongest Pokemon. Sock, go! The fighting type hits the field with its trainer declaring that they will be victorious in this battle. Paul tells him that desire is great, but there's one thing that beats desire every time. Something Ash taught him. Purpose. That's what I have. Electivire, stand by for battle! Over with the judges, Cynthia's questioning Alder about the pairings. She thought they had agreed that they would make the one alteration in the best interest of everyone's safety in case Paul was right. Alder claims that he thought he had made the changes, but maybe the randomizer didn't take his commands. So he guesses that they will have to just wait and see on how everything plays out. I guess we will, Cynthia says, unsure on how to take Alder's remark. Meanwhile, Claire and Caitlin sit in silence with their own thoughts on the situation. On the battlefield, the match with Paul and Stefan is called, with Paul as the winner. The battle was short and to the point. Paul and Electivire were both moving as one, with the precision of a surgeon. Truth be told, Stefan never stood a chance. Paul recalls his mom looking up at Tripp. Fine, if I have to do it the hard way, then that's how it'll be, Paul thinks, while Tripp just smiles as he walks out of sight. Paul clears the battlefield as the next match is one that the crowd has been scratching their heads for. Iris versus Georgia. The two are arguing amongst themselves instead of actually starting the battle. It gets to the point that the announcer has to remind them that they are in a tournament, and if they don't choose who to battle with, then they will both be disqualified. This snaps the two out of their single-mindedness as they both ready their balls. Georgia is confident that she will win this. After all, what does this wannabe Dragon Master know about battling, as she sends in her certain victory? Baratic. Iris, on the other hand, has a choice to make. She wanted to try to make some progress with Excadrill, but it's too good of a chance to pass up. Iris will show Georgia that she really is a Dragon Master, as she declares, Dragonite, go! So, you finally have yourself an actual Dragon type that can battle. Well, looks like it can battle, Georgia says, but looks can be deceiving. However, Iris isn't bothered by this comment. She knows that Dragonite has what it takes to best Georgia, and this is her chance to bond with it, just like Claire said. With a smile, she gives her first command. Flamethrower. Unfortunately, Dragonite doesn't respond, as it seems the Dragon type is having a stare down with its opponent. Well, if it won't battle, then this will be a piece of cake, Georgia retorts, as she orders an Ice Beam. Happily, the Ice type begins to charge its attack. Iris urges Dragonite to fly so it can protect itself, but again, the dragon doesn't move. Then, the worst thing that Iris could possibly imagine happens. The Ice Beam hits. Dragonite doesn't even try to dodge it. A veil of haze descends on Dragonite. Well, it looks like your Pokemon is just like its trainer. It loves to be on the losing end, Georgia says. This brief teasing from the Dragon Buster has left her and Baratic's guard down, and it's something she won't soon forget, as Dragonite emerges with a flamethrower charged and ready as it delivers a burst of intense heat right into the face of Baratic. With no guard up and no time to block the attack, it is a critical hit that one-shots Baratic and brings the battle to a close. Georgia can't believe it, as Iris celebrates her win. Dragonite actually listened to her, even though the command was slightly delayed on its end. Georgia tells Iris that she got lucky. If Baratic's guard wasn't down, then she would have won. But Iris hears nothing as she continues to pander to the crowd with bows of her victory. Iris is then told to clear the battlefield in order to make room for the next match. Realizing she's overstayed her welcome, Iris recalls her Dragon type. Up next is Dawn and that kid Cameron. We see them declare their Pokemon, being Riolu and Mamoswine. While that battle gets underway, Iris and Paul have a chance to meet up. Wasn't that great, Iris says. I finally beat Georgia. No, Paul replies. It was sloppy. Your Dragonite did all the work, while you take all the credit. You don't think that battle was actually your own victory, do you? The only reason you won was because Dragonite was a better fighter, not because you were the better trainer, Paul says. Well, you don't have to be so mean about it, Iris responds. What's up with you? You've been more uptight than usual. Iris, this isn't a game. This is a competition, Paul says. I don't know if you realized it yet, but you face me next. I won't go easy on you. If your Dragonite is against me, then you will lose. This comment changes Iris's demeanor. Paul then says that Iris has to be smarter than this. What if she gets paired with Tripp and he tries the same thing he did yesterday? Her or her Pokemon won't be able to handle that type of intensity. Paul then says one final thing before leaving. If you want to achieve your dreams of becoming a Dragon Master, then you need to stop being so naive. Stop living in your own version of the truth and start accepting reality. If you do that, then you will be able to break the barriers that you have placed in front of yourself. Paul then walks off to leave Iris with her thoughts as the match comes to a close, with Cameron being declared the victor over Dawn. She really had the battle in the bag. That is, until Cameron got a last-minute assist when his Riolu evolved mid-battle to clutch the win from behind. This just leaves the last match of the quarterfinals in Tripp and Burgundy. Needless to say, this one is one-sided as well, when Tripp uses his Jellicent's ghost typing to take on Burgundy and her Darmanitan. While the battle isn't as physically brutal as the one that he had with Conkeldurr, Paul notices that Tripp uses some pretty underhanded tactics to torment the Darmanitan mentally. The whole time, Tripp has the look of enjoyment on his face as his opponent writhed in pain from its mental anguish. This was a sly move, as it didn't catch the eye of the officials. However, on the other hand, Paul swears that Alder was enjoying it as much as Tripp was. Paul doesn't get this old man. Just a few months ago, he was trying to help Paul get through his personal demons, but now that Tripp is around, it seems like the champion is embracing him. Well, it doesn't matter. He has the next round to prepare for, as he and Iris are up next. Once on the battlefield, Paul looks into his traveling companion's eyes. He notices the look in them has changed from the last conversation. So, Iris, have you finally decided to embrace the truths around you? Holding a Pokeball, Iris declares that she won't be losing this fight. And this is where we're going to leave this part. So tell me, how did you guys feel about this one? Why is Tripp acting the way he is? Why does it seem Alder is embracing Tripp's behavior? And what new resolve has Iris found? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we have for today's episode, everyone. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I really hope that you guys will consider hitting the like button and turn on notifications. Don't forget to subscribe as well, so that way you'll never miss another upload from the Ronin Charizard channel. If you guys are interested in other things, why don't you hop on over to Twitter and follow me there? Sometimes I drop behind the scenes stuff that I'm working on in real time. Or you can head over to my Discord where you can possibly get some help with some of your own projects that you're working on. If you guys are feeling a little bit extra generous and you want to help the channel grow, why don't you consider becoming a YouTube channel member or backing me on Patreon? For only $5 a month, you can get up to a week's early access to all of my content, and you'll be helping the channel grow. Not to mention, you'll get exclusive content that I'm putting on those two platforms that aren't available on regular YouTube. With all that being said, it's time to sign out the video the best way we know how, by thanking the patrons and the YouTube channel members. For the Shogun tier, we have Azlite, Chris Lackerman, Christian Anderson, Dylan Nicholson, Forbidden Super, Gear 100, Gray Leo, Holosiv, Indigo Saturn 64, JJ, John Larson, Cronus 4i, Robert, Treeman, Trent Trolls, Vegito What Ifs, Warney Taylor. For the general tier, we have Adrian Carr, Andrew McCartney, Assassin 139, Cameron Dicker, Cami Stein, Chris Collins, Dylan Silva, plus Ultraman, Dino King, Dylan Wolfdog 31, Earth Dragon, Ifosa Mead, Flyer 943, Fox King, Gerald Smith, Irving 14209, Jack, Johnny, Jody Juster, Josiah Herring, Julian Rodriguez, Justin Ray, Kendall Green, Kevin Atran, Kevin Malula, Lord Explosion Murder, Luke Skyrunner, Mario Pikachu, Megar, Nick Riviero, Normandy 1998, Pokemon Master 123, Ruben Watson, Silver Heart Soul, Stephen Foot, Trainer Rad 164, True Volt, Yasai. And for the Ronin tier, we have James Baldridge Jr. and Just Some Guy 23. For the YouTube channel members, on the Ace tier, we have Nathan Zadro, and for the Ronin tier, we have Brandon Hernandez and Hira Karina, Gouffet 7_69, Robert Ostergaard, and T Bolt for you. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.